Hey, Channel Insiders, I'm your host, Katie Bavoso, and welcome to this episode of Partner POV, brought to you by Hirexe. If your business hasn't felt the strain of the IT skills gap, just wait. IDC predicts that by 2026, 90% of businesses worldwide will struggle with this issue. For the managed service providers of the IT channel who already have to navigate shifting budgets and client demand, Hirexe wants to make staffing IT talent one less challenge. And joining me now is Chris Keith, founder and CEO of Hirexe. Welcome, Chris.
Katie, it's so good to see you. Thanks so much for having me. And I feel like I'm in great hands with such a professional on the other side. So just keep me on the rails here. Okay?
Oh my goodness. The check is in the mail, my friend. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Chris, this is such an exciting project. I've known you for quite a few years now, and I know you to be somebody who puts your mind to something and you go after it. And this is no different at Hirexe. So why don't we begin with you just giving us kind of the rundown of what Hirexe is and who your customers are?
Certainly. Well, again, thanks so much for having me and for the kind words too. So what Hirexe is, high level, we are a technology-enabled South African BPO. So I feel that we have the best quality resources in the world for the price point that's available over in South Africa. We work specifically with the channel, with MSPs, but really any business that's just looking to grow and expand. And I can get into all those specifics here with you shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's continue on that conversation then. So, Chris, you've spent time in the IT distribution channel. So specifically speaking about MSPs, where did you see the need for the services that Hirexe now provides?
So I joke around, Katie. I've been building overseas teams since before it was cool back in 2020, right? I've been doing this for about 15 years. And when I was at Zorus, which was a cybersecurity company, we focused primarily with companies in the channel. We scaled quickly. So when I came on board, there was about 4 of us. We scaled up to almost 40 people in a 2-year timeframe. I was responsible for the majority of those hires. And what I realized is hiring becomes a full-time job. Hiring for the channel specifically, there's a lot of nuance. There's specific industry knowledge that you need. You need to know the channel. There's like that it factor. And I say it in jest. It's not just knowing IT, but also having those intangible qualities that everyone's looking for. So I found, or what I realized is, man, if there was someone that could help me get to final round candidates faster, or we always joke around, get to know a lot faster so that we're just stuck with those final round candidates, that's something that would be hugely, hugely valuable. So that was really the genesis of all this. And all good businesses start as scratching your own itch or solving your own problem, right? So that's what I set out to do.
So let's continue on from there. What challenges will your services and ultimately your people solve for MSPs? What I'm really asking is what roles can they ideally fill? Because as you said yourself, there's a lot of nuances in this space.
So it's funny, it starts off the most obvious one and where we've had a ton of success is just at the help desk. Now, what's nice is that ranges from, L1 techs up to L3. So if you need people with a little bit more experience, we have all that. One of the aspects that we always look for, and right now we have a database built up of a couple hundred people that are ready to go. There's really, really strong IT talent over in South Africa. Many of them, in fact, most of the candidates that we have in this database live and active right now have prior MSP experience. So what does that mean? You don't have the cold start problem. You're not bringing someone from 0 to 1. They understand the ticket velocity, because you and I both know, Katie, in the channel, like tickets happen fast. Like the rate of speed is quick. They also know the technology. So whether it's ConnectWise PSA or Datto RMM or backup, anything like that, the more specific that our partners are with us on the front end, the more specific the resources we can give them that check all the boxes that they need. That just allows them to scale up relatively quickly.
Very well put and very straightforward. A database of over 100 people right now, you say?
Yeah, without a doubt. So as I mentioned, we're leveraging technology on the back end to speed this up. But one of the things that's become that's just increasingly important and we understand is the velocity in which we can make these connections. And I think one of the aspects that people don't quite realize when they go down this route is truly the win-win scenario that we're able to put together, both with US companies themselves, as well as the talent that's based over in South Africa. So unemployment in South Africa is over 32%. And there's a lot of people that have decent jobs, but maybe they have to commute. It's not uncommon for South Africans to have an hour-long commute. So when we're able to give them a fully remote position that frees up time to spend with family, and at a really steady job at a company that's been around, a lot of our partners have been in business for 25 plus years. Not only do we put the candidates in a great financial position, we put them in like a position of really, really nice flexibility. But then, of course, we're helping our partners over here in the US find really, really high quality resources at a cost that makes sense too. So it ends up being that true win-win.
Thank you so much for the extra details on that. And, I'm thinking to our prior conversations talking about the struggles that kind of bore Hirexe to come into being. So I want to know for our audience, from your opinion, are the MSPs in the US who leverage Hirexe struggling with the inability to find and retain talent? Or are they struggling to afford it stateside? Because the people who are listening may be asking, are these outsourced employees from Hirexe knowledgeable enough to extend internal MSP teams? You did touch on that, but how do you respond to those who might still be on the fence?
So Katie, let me take you back to, it was probably fall of 2024. When I was really going to market with Hirexe and in the solution that I was building. And the long-term solution is I want to build like a large talent marketplace that does smart matching. So we will continue to take the rote aspect out of like a lot of the recruiting role. And I was explaining this solution to a lot of business owners that I had in my network, a lot of channel partners that I had met over the past few years. And I'm explaining, hey, we're going to bring all these users on. We're going to be smart in the back end and make these automatic connections. We're going to do all this stuff. And everyone kind of looked at me and they smiled and they said, Chris, if you can solve the, putting great people in touch with us immediately, that's a great problem to solve. And you're going to do really well and help a lot of people. But here's what we need right now. We need these three things. We need qualified people. So people that know the channel, know the space. I don't have to train them how to do everything because that's really time intensive for my team. And that's expensive, right? The time value of money. I don't want to have to train them. So that's number one. Number two, they need that it factor. And that it is both like they have the IT background, but then there's also something to their personality that sets them apart. And then number three, I need them to be reasonably priced. For whatever reason, it's tough for me to find people in the US that are capable, like that check those first two boxes, right? And if they do check those first two boxes, oftentimes they know it and they're really, really expensive. It's not someone that I can afford. So that made me fall back on, if I had the conversation once, I had it 250 times. This was a huge need for the market. And just me, like having worked with all these teams in all these different countries, I knew how quality the South African talent was, specifically because they're native English speakers. So it's interesting. I started to make these connections or say, hey, tell me exactly what you're looking for right now. Let me see if I can put you in touch with someone that might check that box. And the wow moments that you saw when people would talk with these folks, hear what they had to say, saw their resume, looked at their background, and then heard them present and got over the phone or over the video with them. That wow moment was pretty special that we put together, and we've been scaling since.
So you've given me a ton of information that really expresses the positives of Hirexe, and I think it's worth kind of going into that one more time. So I'm going to ask the most direct question that I possibly have in this entire interview, which is outsourcing talent, as we know from overseas, is not new. And of course, yours is not the first company to connect businesses to skilled workers abroad. What makes Hirexe stand out from the competition in this space? If you can give me those differentiators that really make you stand out, I'd love to hear them.
I think by far and away, it's the quality of the product, right? So it's funny, but my background is sales, right? So revenue related. And one of the aspects that we joke about, and I brought it up briefly in the prior question, but it's getting to that wow moment, right? So that wow moment looks like a couple different things, but generally in a perfect world, you're on a demo with a customer. And oftentimes if you're selling software or you're bringing something to market, people don't quite understand, or you're giving them the demo and then something will happen. And it's almost that 5-second moment. Like if you're telling a story, that 5-second moment where people realize like, oh, this is the ending. Like this is exciting. That wow moment with sales is when something clicks. And it's oftentimes not something that is said or articulated, but you can see it. you can feel it. Like someone's like they light up and they're just like, the energy is now there. They're engaged, all that sort of thing. What I realized is I have that wow moment the first time that each and every one of my MSP or channel partners talks to someone from South Africa, or frankly, even watches like a Loom video, because we have everyone go through video interviews for us. When I send them that over, they look at the resume. The questions that I always get asked, whether I'm on the phone or in a video interview just like this, is where are they located? What's the times difference? Do they speak English natively? And then and this is the price point. This is a full-time employee price point. So I think what's really exciting about that is when you have a product that, like people joke around about product-led growth, right? When you have something that you don't have to sell, but that the product truly elicits that wow moment on its own, that's what's really special. And that's exactly, fortunately, the position that I'm in, or frankly, my partners in South Africa put me in just with their overall quality.
Now, my next question, I can't help but think about AI versus traditional human employee, that argument that we've often been hearing going on in the background of many industries right now. We are in the age of AI. I talk about it every single day. So when you hear the arguments to use AI over people, how do you respond to that?
Well, my response is, and I was actually talking with someone about this the other day. So back in I think it was the 1950s when the first computer came out, there was 4 major areas of emphasis across the board, like with folks in the United States or worldwide. And it was these 4. Number 1, what exactly does this technology mean? It's just like, well, like, what exactly is this going to do? Number 2, it feels like this is probably going to make things a little bit more efficient. But number 3, what's going to happen to jobs, right? And then number 4 was, okay, when we put all that together, what does the future look like? Like, what are we going to do? And it's interesting, that was, 70 years ago or so. And what we've seen is those folks that have been able to leverage the technology and in conjunction, use the technology to the best of its abilities with using the people aspect simultaneously. Those are the folks that are really able to capitalize and then increase productivity. And it's funny because even AI itself, it's starting going down this route. Instead of a per seat pricing like what we have for SaaS at the moment, all the big model companies, they all pay by usage. So if you use the company quite a bit, then you pay more. If you use less, then you pay less. That makes sense for the workforce or just for businesses at large, right? If I'm a business and I'm using your service a lot, like I'll probably pay a lot for it. If I'm not, I don't want to. I think the same thing is happening with the workforce. We're going to transition less into where you're geographically located, if you're working necessarily 40 hours a week and where you're working those 40 hours. Instead, it's going to turn into what is the output that you're able to generate. And I think the companies that position themselves to have really highly qualified, motivated people that enable them, give them the best tools and put them and educate them, give them the knowledge that it takes to use those tools productively. We're going to see people do 120 hours worth of work in what used to take 20 or 30 or 40. And that I think is really, really exciting.
Can you give me an example of a success story in which an MSP customer of yours benefited from Hirex's services?
Yeah, so this one actually checks a bunch of boxes. So thank you. So this is just a couple weeks ago. We had someone submit a request just via the website on a Sunday. So this is over the weekend, mind you. First thing Monday morning, the team in South Africa is a few hours ahead of me. So they always, I always wake up first thing in the morning with a bunch of information. We had 3 perfect fit candidates for the request that came in on Sunday afternoon. I shared that with the MSP partner on Monday. He responded right away and said, "This is incredible. Thank you so much." We set up the interviews for first thing on Tuesday, and he extended a job offer on Wednesday morning. And 72 hours, we got this person like a great resource. They actually would have been able to start on Thursday. The only thing that held us up, Katie, was the hardware. We didn't have the hardware sitting on the shelf. My MSP partner actually had to order it. So they started that following Monday. So in 72 hours, job offer. In about a week's time, we had someone start. Now, the next part of what's really neat about that too is they started off with just a help desk technician. Now they have 2 help desk technicians, and we just helped them hire a service coordinator. So there's a bunch of different, types of roles that they're looking that they have hired. And now we're actively helping him fill a chief of staff role as well to help just with overall coordination. So that's just neat. Shows like the time, the velocity at which we can make these things happen. Him making that hire and going the chief of staff route is just going to allow him to work on his business, not in his business quite a bit. So enabling that sort of a transition or helping there too is something that's really exciting.
So tell me, what does this process of getting started with Hirexe look like? Can you walk me through from that first point of contact to the day the employee gets started, pending the supply chain that they're getting the equipment that you talk about? And how long does that typically take?
Yeah, so the time frame is generally as short as quickly, like we said, it could be the hours or days. To a couple weeks. We totally go off what the partner specifics or what they're looking for. I've started a couple companies and have worked in the channel for a long time. And I'm building this business for, frankly, like how I would see it being valuable if I was building a company. So there's a few things that we do that I think are really nice and valuable for our partners. Number one is everything is month to month, right? So you're not locked into any sort of a long-term agreement. We just ask that you give us a 30 days heads up if you're going to be canceling a resource. That's totally fine. So that month to month, I think is massive. The other aspect is just, the more granular or specific that you can get with us on what you're looking for, the more granular and specific we can get with you on getting you those resources. When you're interested, we set up interviews for you. They're just, 15 to 20 minutes in that first interview. It's also wild, Katie. Again, what's important is getting the right people with the right companies at the right time. The majority of our folks that hire, it takes like 1.3 interviews is the most often. So people make decisions relatively quickly and then we bring them on board. After that happens, I take care of everything. I'm the employer of record over there. There's some tricky things about South Africa that you want to be aware of from an employment standpoint. Luckily, I have labor lawyers on staff and we handle all those specifics for you. So you just give me that one-time cost on a monthly basis. We do everything that we can to handhold or onboard that person as quickly as possible too. So as far as the tech stack and everything like that, we get the hardware, you install your entire technology stack, all the software on that. And then it's essentially an internal employee for our partners. So you get them on board on exactly what your internal processes look like, best practices, that specific technology stack. But then we help to actively manage that employee with you. So if there are certain aspects, best practices, like just managing personalities, doing weekly, monthly, quarterly check-ins, et cetera. That's something that we all do in conjunction with you, your leadership team, et cetera, as well.
So, Chris, after hearing all of this, if we have interested MSPs watching and listening today, how can they get started with Hirexe?
We actually make it as easy as possible. Just go to mspchanneljobs.com. That'll give you a quick overview of all the services. Easily reach me. There's a number that's associated there too. Someone or even myself will get back to you very, very quickly and we'll go from there.
Chris, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure getting to catch up with you and get to know Hirexe. And thanks to you at home for watching or listening. You can check out all episodes of Partner POV on channelinsider.com. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.